In this presentation, I will try to focus on a very specific and very subjective, I would say, actor in the entire Maidan protest set of events, namely the local governments in Ukraine. Okay, sorry, too many buttons to push. Probably the Maidan events which happened in Ukraine in 2013 and 2014 do not need much introduction because they already received substantial scholarly attention. However, to the best of my knowledge, most of this analysis had been focused so far on Kiev events. For my presentation, and this is the research I do for my doctoral thesis, I focus on local Maidans in villages and towns across Ukraine. Let me warn you, this is research in process. So please be kind with your comments and suggestions. I also have to tell you that I used contentious politics perspective by Tilly and Terrell to put in 3 words, 3 brief statements. These include claim making, collective coordinated actions, and local government targeting. For this specific research, I analyzed 94 resolutions which were adopted by local Maidan rallies in 57 localities all around Ukraine in 20 oblasts. I found that the substantial share of the demands which claimants made at the local level were concerning the local governments. So I got interested about the impact of this and the role the local government took, the position they took forward this the claimants' demands. So I collected and analyzed 193 addresses which were adopted by 68 local authorities in the same 20 oblasts where Maidan events took place. To give you a brief overview, this is the map of the local Maidan resolutions which I currently found. I keep searching, so it's expanding. But just to, maybe I'll point here. For example, this is the city of Chernivtsi. I've got 4 resolutions of the local Maidan in the city of Chernivtsi. I analyzed their demands, and in order to understand the position of local government, I analyzed the declarations of Chernivtsi city government, Chernivtsi oblast government. If the town was located somewhere in the region, I also analyzed the position of Rayon Council. This is just a brief note how I collected my data. What's next? Just to, I cannot, understanding the claims of local governments is impossible without understanding the demands of the local protesters, which is obvious. They go hand in hand. So let me first go a bit further and explain you what I found as a result of my qualitative analysis of the resolutions which were issued by local Maidan rallies. I found that they issued claims to local, national, and even international governments. They've been quite brave. But the share of this was uneven. As you can see, only 2% concerned international governments, 62% concerned national governments, and 37% concerned local governments. So local governments' claims did occupy a substantial share. But what's more interesting to me is the next slide. These are the 5 different stages of Maidan. If you read through my paper, when I came up with this categorization, I used the existing categorizations which different researchers suggest. So these are different stages which carried different quality of demands. And you can see with this light blue is the share of local government demands. And you can see how it was steadily increasing. International claims where we can say it was unimportant, protesters just asked international governments to ban Yanukovych from entering some country. National claims were the most important. They concerned mostly national politics, resignation of the top officials, the president, the chair of the parliament, the prime minister, full power reload through snap elections, and return to 2004 constitution. And if you read through the paper, you could read really juicy quotes. They've been quite emotional in putting up their claims. The next group was the justice claims. They demanded rehabilitation of political prisoners, proper investigation and punishment of those guilty in wrongdoings and beatings and police outrage and all those things. Foreign policy demands were quite important. They obviously concerned the restoration of the European course. Well, and the other groups were quite diverse, and they included changes in civil society sphere, social guarantees, and physical security of the protesters. But I'm obviously biased, but I'm fascinated by the claims which local protesters issued towards their local governments, the ones which were closest to them, which they understood the best. In the sphere of local politics, these were quite broad, and if you read this in detail, they wanted total power reload as well. They wanted resignation of top officials, of the mayor, of the council head, of the local administration head. They were dissatisfied with these persons. They wanted snap elections, as I said. They wanted councils to hold extraordinary sessions to decide on the matters of local importance. They wanted more transparency at the local level, open budgets, e-governance. All those things were in these declarations. They wanted increased public participation and direct democracy, which, if you think about this, is a very substantial thing. But let me skip now to how did local government councils actually react to this? Well, they were, to be honest with you, quite reluctant about picking up on these very important political questions. However, they've been quite active at picking up the national level claims. They also demanded, at the political level, power reload. They also demanded security and justice. Foreign policy, the same thing. But look at these two last points. They kind of put the responsibility for this protest on the shoulders of the national government and said, now you have to solve the conflict. Hold the round table and include us, local governments, as the legitimate actors. And ensure timely payment of pensions and salaries. At the local, on top of that, if you analyze the actions which were actually taken by local councils in Ukraine during Maidan time, you can see that their attempts to regain control at the local level just to give you a brief prehistory, during Kuchma time, all the local councils, which had executive committees, transferred these executive powers to state administrations. They wanted to regain this, to recall these powers back. These were found illegal by the court. In February 2014, when Narodna Rada, very interesting institution, was voted in Kiev Maidan, these Narodna Radas, in different hybrid forms, emerged all over Ukraine. I found the statistics in 19 regions. The local councils, which I analyzed, also claimed the creation of this Narodna Rada to regain the powers to create a new power vertical, found illegal by the court. And finally, when President Yanukovych escaped, what they did, they addressed Ukrainian parliament, the only legitimate institution at that time, to hold in a systematic way decentralization reform, to transfer powers and finances at the local level. So preliminary conclusions which I reached and which we will hopefully discuss is that local councils exercised a very hybrid and interesting role. At one side, they were the government, the subject of the claim. But on the other side, they didn't hesitate to issue claims themselves. And they issued these claims to national and even international governments. In this way, they indeed acted as a loudspeaker to Maidan protesters' demands. But on the other side, they closed the eyes and pretended they ignored the very serious issues at the local level. So following Ukrainian researcher Pali, who suggested that no social changes can be reached without an establishment reaching the protesters, my analysis suggests something in this course, that the fact that local governments merge some of their interests with the protesters did contribute to what some people call the success of Maidan movement.
Great. Thank you so much.